Hi, this is Kal Penn, and you're watching BollywoodHungama.com.
Well, it's wonderful to have Kal Penn, one of the finest actors that we have as far as Indian exports of actors is concerned, and he's coming up with his movie Bhopal, A Prayer for Rain. Many can call it that he's the hero of the film as well, and we'll talk more about that. Wonderful to have you on Bollywood Hungama, first of all.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and that too, just talking to Kal Penn here in New York. And how do you react to the fact that the movie is finally releasing after 5 years, and it must be an important film in your filmography as well?
I'm excited that it's releasing, and also, thrilled that the directors in particular and the producers who kind of put the film together even before we had the chance to shoot it. It was really a labor of love in wanting to tell a story that has been told a few times before, but not really in this sort of a lens. On the career side, obviously working with Martin Sheen, Misha Barton, working with fellow American actors, but in a project that's entirely Indian. You have a special place in your heart for something like that, and all those things coming together. A film like this takes sometimes years, as it has in this case, to go from actually shooting it to cutting it and getting distribution. So we're very excited, fingers crossed. I actually haven't seen it in its final cut. I've seen some of the longer rough cuts when we went in for sound mixing. But I'm very excited that it's finally coming out. I think it's an important story.
In a few scenes of the movie, you're speaking in Hindi acid, and you have this heavy US accent. So how was that to deal with? Just come with the right accent, because I don't think that you're accented at all. Your Hindi is accented at all in the movie.
Did you believe it in the movie?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I didn't know that my character would speak in Hindi, so I got the script. When I was in Los Angeles, I met with the director in Los Angeles, and I'm rehearsing by myself, prepping before we went to Hyderabad, where we shot most of the film. And we go to the first rehearsal. I land in Hyderabad, go to the first rehearsal. I read through the first scene, and the director kind of looks up from his page, then he whispers something to our producer, and then he goes, "Ha, acha. Abhi Hindi mein." I'm like, what? This in Hindi? Like, I didn't realize that he was speaking Hindi. I'm like, come on, Kal, he's a journalist in Bhopal in the early 80s. What did you think he was going to be speaking? So luckily, sat down with a dialect coach, and then also made good use of the fact that I have a ton of cousins in India, calling them all up saying, am I saying this line right? Going into sort of really quick prep, because the last thing I wanted was to do an injustice to the character. I mean, Motwani should not be a distraction based on the way he's speaking. On the contrary, he's got a lot of depth to him that I wanted to focus on.
Your accent was absolutely bang on, and it's very important that you speak in Hindi, because the little boy that you're conversing with, and all those factors, the Hindi element is very crucial. Did you actually interact with the journalist on whom you were playing? I believe his name was Keswani, right?
I thought it was Motwani, but it may have been Keswani. There's I didn't get to meet him in person. Rajkumar Keswani. So Ravi Kumar, our director, had the chance to meet with him. There's quite a bit of archival information on him if you kind of go and search for it. So I did a bit of research that way, and then have the chance to sit down with Ravi to talk about exactly what he was like. And then there are, of course, some creative liberties that you take if discovering why this guy's got this flashy shirt and this jewelry. And he's also one of the only characters in the film whose livelihood isn't based on the factory itself. So it gives him a lot of both creative leeway and a reason for him to be a whistleblower in the scene.
The persistent element, because Motwani is persistent in terms of just coming to terms with the fact that he believes in that there is something fishy going on, and there's something wrong. And in a small town, a journalist is not expected to be really investigative. They're forced to just do trivial stories somehow. The fact that this guy actually believed in his investigative skills, and later he got a lot of awards and all these things as well. Do you find it very inspiring?
Definitely. Look, especially in the way that the story is told. At first, Motwani is a guy who just wants to sell newspapers. He's a little bit of a hokey journalist. He's, not necessarily always printing the truth, which is what he has a reputation for. But it's clear that he loves the town and he loves his community so much that when he does get the sense that something is actually wrong, whether it's, the corruption of his local government or the corruption in Union Carbide, that he's writing about it and he's saying something about it. And the big challenge for him throughout the part of the film is getting people to believe it. So if their livelihood, their bread and butter is being given by somebody who's also poisoning them, it's kind of a very complex mentality for him to have to fight up against, which I was particularly compelling to play.
The community factor is completely missing. Do you feel that something concrete should be done so that people of Bhopal can finally feel redeemed in a way? Because it's a bad example for almost anyone in the country, in India as well. that anyone can do whatever they want to and get away with it.
Yeah, I don't think there's a person out there who doesn't hope that something actually gets done or wish that something had gotten done. I mean, obviously I'm not an expert on the tragedy aside from the things that we've researched to make the film, but everything from sort of what the company maybe swept under the rug over time to what the Indian government swept under the rug over time to, the people who are actually suffering because of that. I hope that with a movie like this, especially 30 years later, that it shines a light on the fact that there are still people being born today who are suffering from the consequences of what happened 30 years ago. But also, how do we prevent that in the future, right? We've got certainly a lot more globalization, a lot more industry, particularly in South Asia, East Asia, than we did 30 years ago. And can we incentivize checks and balances so that something like that doesn't happen in the future? Can we actually prevent, things like that from happening? And I hope so. I mean, everybody knows the ending to a movie like this, right? So what's compelling about watching the story is watching how it develops and where mistakes were made and what we can learn from. And so yeah, I hope certainly it starts or at least continues or elevates a conversation that's been going on for 30 years.
Right. Do you think that there were political reasons for the movie not releasing earlier? Because Warren Anderson got a safe passage because of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, who was the Prime Minister at that point of time, and it was the UPA government which was there in power at that point of time when the movie must have been made in 2009.
I don't think so. I think it was just a question of distribution, but that's a better question for our producers because I was not as hands-on both before and after the shooting. I think since this was a relatively smaller budget film, it takes a while for things to get cut together, for the post-production to kick in, and then to search for distribution. Are you sitting down with Ravi?
I will.
Because I'm actually curious to know the answer to that question.
If you look at it from common sense point of view or logical point of view, the political pressure could have been the reason, because the moment the regime has changed in India, within a span of 6 months, the movie is going to be releasing. The fact that the Indian Prime Minister actually provided a safe passage to a guy who had committed a very heinous crime, like 10,000, 12,000 people died just because of his spinelessness and carelessness. So somehow it's a huge blunder by any standards. And the history remembers this as a huge blunder, one of the huge blunders that he had done.
I would be curious to know if there's a correlation. And the reason I'm now particularly curious is I know with film distribution, particularly after post-production, there's sometimes more of a lag than there is with elections. I would guess that distribution for this was secured even before anything happened politically in India over the last couple months. But now I love this kind of stuff, so I really want to know the answer to that question.
But I think the feelers were there that even before elections, almost six months before the elections, that there will be a regime change.
Yeah, but look, I think part of the root of even being able to ask a question like that is that I think people are aware of the fact that we collectively as a society don't ever want to see tragedies like this from happening. And so if we can call out, whether we're calling out politicians or whether we're calling out industry or aspects of corruption that exist everywhere, if we're focusing on them and focusing on them in this way, there is both a moral and financial imperative to make sure that disasters like this don't happen again. And I think you're getting to the root of that, which is what we're hoping the film can spark.
Absolutely.
It's a social thriller in that.
Kal Penn is closely associated with Mr. Barack Obama. He's been supportive of him. He's been involved in his government as well, off and on, because he's got his acting career to look into as well. Something about this aspect of your professional life, because it is rather unusual that, and especially for an Indian to be participating so closely with the US president. I think it's a matter of pride for the country as well.
Thanks. Yeah,
arts and humanities, that's what you're associated with.
Yeah, well, I took a 2-year sabbatical from acting and worked mostly on outreach to young Americans and Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And the current President Obama's administration is actually incredibly diverse. There are a lot of us, I was born and raised in the States. Parents obviously immigrants from India, so there were many other folks from India, Pakistan, Asian countries in general. Really, it's a very
Bangladesh.
Yeah, but even broader than that is what I'm saying, is that this is an administration that the president has, I think, hired folks who he identified based on their talents, not necessarily based on their background or their parents' country of origin. So what you have is an incredibly diverse. Really, it looks more like what America looks like now. Folks who are serving the administration, and I worked mostly on outreach to young Americans and Asian American Pacific Islanders. So everything from the president wanted to celebrate Diwali at the White House and became the first sitting president to do so. So helping him put something like that together to what things like our healthcare reform bill was like, or repealing don't ask, don't tell policy in the military. And that was for 2 years that I took the sabbatical, came back to acting, and I'm now working in acting full-time, but also serving part-time on the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities, which focuses mostly on underprivileged schools and turning them around using the arts.
And you're part of his election campaign as well, I believe.
I was, yeah, both.
Right. Mr. Modi is visiting US shortly. So, any possibilities of you meeting him as well?
You know, I'm in Los Angeles now. This is my 2 days here for our press junket. So, all of the things that happened in New York on the global scale, the UN General Assembly, a lot of the prime ministerial and foreign presidents' visits, I wish I was here for to get a taste of sort of what that's like. But I will be watching and reading intently.
The closest that you've come, apart from this movie, that you've come to, just being a part of a typical Bollywood, not a typical Bollywood star, but Bollywood star, because big Bollywood stars were a part of it, is Namesake.
Yeah.
Tabu and Irrfan Khan were part of it. Your performance was hugely appreciated. The fact that Tabu and Irrfan Khan are headlining the cast, it was expected that they'll be just taking away all the applause, but your performance was hugely appreciated. So does that feel good for you? Because I believe that is one novel that's one of your favorite all-time novels as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Jhumpa Lahiri's writing I was not as familiar with until John Cho, who plays Harold in the Harold and Kumar movies, recommended her first book, Interpreter of Melodies, and I read it, and then we both read The Namesake together, and it really resonated with me, not just because of the shared ethnicity, but also because it read sort of like J.D. Salinger's novel The Catcher in the Rye. I'm not a rich white kid from New England who goes to boarding school, but when I read that book, I felt like I was, and it was similar when I read The Namesake. Jhumpa's writing style is so vivid. Having the chance to shoot the movie, that movie is bar none, my favorite thing I've ever had the chance to work on. Mira Nair has been a role model of mine since I was a little kid. Jhumpa is one of my favorite all-time authors, period. Tabu and Irrfan were incredible to work with. I mean, working with the two of them on a project like this, particularly a drama, particularly one that was so focused on family and love and loss, I couldn't ask for a better cast, and I would love to work with all of them anytime, literally for anything.
Kumar is, I think, another character that I think has got you a lot of appreciation, and comedy is something that you enjoy.
I like both. What I love about acting is being able to tell a story and make an audience feel an emotion or learn about something or feel something that they didn't feel going into that. So a broad comedy like Harold and Kumar, I love making people laugh, and I love the joy that comes with that. Something like this movie, also love making people think or feel an emotion for a group of people that might have lived 30 years ago who they would never have the chance to meet. I love the juxtaposition of both of those.
When are we seeing you being a part of a big Bollywood production?
Let me know. Let's see. If my Hindi is believable in this film, then hopefully I can make that next step. The types of things, like we discussed, I'm certainly open. The things that I watch mostly are the narratives, not necessarily musicals. But because of that makes me want to do some, a big musical film, and then something like The Lunchbox. I mean, I'd love to work in India again. What
is your idea of a good Bollywood film? A Lunchbox you mentioned, but apart from that,
there's so much. I feel like you can't really. Maybe 20 years ago, you could say there's a type of film that comes out of India, but there's so much diversity in filmmaking, especially now. Not just the 800 plus movies that come out of Bollywood, but the diversity within that. Even the diversity within single language movies. So even within the Hindi film world, something like D-Day, completely different. Something even years ago like Dal, or now Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, right? They're totally different. I really enjoyed Mere Dad Ki Maruti. Like, literally watched that and then watched Udaan. And so the two couldn't be more different, but I loved both of them. I really enjoyed it.
As far as the accent is concerned, even there's so many people, be it Katrina, be it Jacqueline Fernandez, for example, who've been heavily accented, but they've been accepted, and they've been accepted in a huge way. Yeah. Like both Katrina and Jacqueline, they're doing exceptionally well. So I think accent is not really an issue, actually.
Yeah, I hope so. But I also hope to master that, right?
And I think you've already done it.
Thank you.
In Bhopal, so I think it should not be a problem, because it's difficult to just really believe that this guy is not Indian from anywhere whatsoever. So it's like
awesome. Thank you.
There's no bit of it. Even apart from that, you must have interacted with people like Rajpal Yadav. I think who's a huge talent in his own way as well. Right. So how was that experience?
Incredible. Right. He's so down to earth and such a talent. Listen to his stories about he's obviously worked on tremendous, huge budget things. He's worked on a movie like ours, which was a much more restricted budget and a little more of a grueling schedule. Hearing his stories about how those projects come together, how he approaches a role like this even. Obviously, acting is, no matter which country you're in, you hear incredible stories. But
Sure.
he in particular, I think, had a great outlook on some of the movies he's been in. He's had, much smaller roles, and other movies he's had huge things. And I think we had a conversation once about, if the role appeals to you, this is my philosophy too, if the role appeals to me, I don't really care if it's just one scene. If it's a project that I really want to be part of, I really feel passionately about telling a certain story or playing a compelling character, I want to do that. I saw he was recently, I think he's in the beginning of D-Day, right? In the wedding scene.
Rajpal Yadav.
Yeah. I think he is, and he's really good. And it's really...
A lot of other movies that he's been part of. He's been part of a lot of other movies.
No, but he was awesome.
Right.
Even the whole crew, right, is working with particularly this younger set of film students who have gone to film school, studying film, making even interesting things like Bombay Talkies. That series of shorts was incredible. Saqib Salim was insanely awesome in his short. All four of them were great, all four shorts. But there's this, I think, this newer generation of filmmakers and actors that
absolutely.
seem so compelling to me, and I really want to work with them.
Apart from Saqib Salim, you mentioned, who are your favorite actors in
I mean, you got to start with Amitabh,
Tabu,
right? Obviously, Amitabh Bachchan would be an incredible talent to work with. I'm biased because Irrfan Khan and Tabu were so fantastic to work with, but every time I see them in something, and particularly Irrfan recently, any actor who uses silence as compellingly as he does, I mean, the man could be on screen for 5 whole minutes and not say a word, and you understand exactly what he's thinking and what he's doing, right?
Absolutely. His eyes are very communicative.
Yeah. Gosh, even though, Rani Mukherjee, some of the folks who I watched a couple of years ago who I really enjoy. There are very few people that I wouldn't want to work with necessarily. It just depends on the subgenre, right? Whether I'm looking at something that's a bigger song and dance piece, or something that's a little more gritty, a little more independent.
What about your forthcoming projects? What are you doing next?
So I'm on a show right now called Battle Creek, which Vince Gilligan, who did Breaking Bad, and David Shore, who did House, got together to write and produce. That comes out early next year. I'm working on a show that I'm producing and hosting for National Geographic Channel that's also going to come out next year here in the States and in India as well, called Mapology, about data mapping and how financial transactions work, how Facebook data works with when you click yes on a privacy policy, how can companies track your movements on your smartphone? What does that mean for what they sell you, your ad buys, things like that. So kind of the more cerebral part of what you see on a network like Nat Geo. A couple of films I have coming out, a British horror movie called Dementomania that comes out in October. A couple of things that are pending that hopefully I can talk about soon when we close those deals.
Right.
And then I really want to make an American version of Dawn, the original Dawn. Who do I talk to about that?
Right. In Bollywood?
No, I want to shoot it in Vegas. I want to make your whole crew is laughing at me, by the way. I'm serious. I want to play Amitabh Bachchan's character from the original Dawn, dressed the same.
You said Dawn.
Dawn, yeah.
I thought you were saying dollar.
No, Dawn.
Just Dawn. Okay. But Shah Rukh Khan has already done it.
But I want to do an American version of. I like Shah Rukh's version, but my favorite is the original version.
Acha, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Who has the rights to that? How does that work? I should call somebody.
I can tell you the guy who's Chandan, I think is the name of the director or something like that. And the rights are with a guy called, his name is Irani. I'm not too sure. We'll have to talk about it later.
Such a good movie.
I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea that you're saying, basing it in Vegas and like a period thing or like current day stuff?
I think he's stuck in the period, but it's current day.
Acha, I like that. Fantastic. So looking forward to Bhopal, A Prayer for Rain releasing in India, and looking forward to having you in India once you come there for promotions. And I hope that you have a good time in India, and looking forward to your Hollywood projects as well. And I hope Dawn, your version happens too.
I hope so. Hopefully next time we sit down, it'll be
fantastic.
About that, yeah.
We'll more certainly do that. And all the best, Vishnu. Lovely talking to you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's all from BollywoodHungama. Keep on watching.
Hi, this is Faridoon Shahryar. For the most interesting celebrity interviews, do subscribe to Bollywood Hungama. Keep on watching.